about investigating or indicting a sitting president.
Right. I think in the in various Georgetown events, I referred to it as a open question. In my Minnesota law review, I referred to it as an open question. I think here I've referred to it as an open question. And I've said if it comes to me, you know, a lot of things would have to happen.
But have you indicated your views?
I just
want to try to get the question in so you understand what I'm asking.
Yes.
You.
Yes, sir.
The constitutionality itself. Have you taken an issue on the constitutionality of these issues about criminally indicting or investigating a sitting president?
No, I've said repeatedly, and here's
no. That was it. Yes or no? You said no. Can I refresh your recollection with things you have said, sir? So this is a Georgetown article, and again, I have the quotes.
Seems that
okay. I just want to walk through it. Okay. So you agree? You did say this. You said, quote, the constitutionality itself seems to dictate.
Yeah.
So you're expressing a view on the constitutionality. Look at what you wrote in the Washington Post. The Constitution, again, you use a conditional word, appears to preclude. But you talked about the constitutionality, appears to preclude.
And that was
please.
In the Georgetown Law Journal in 1998. And as it's been reported, I advised my advice to independent counsel Starr was not to seek.
In the Minnesota Law Review article, you said that the Constitution establishes a clear mechanism, talking about what the Constitution establishes. Yes?
Well, let's be very clear. Can I get 30 seconds?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the Constitution obviously sets out a mechanism for removal.
Yes.
Okay. The question of criminal indictment is simply a question of timing. And the question is, does it have to be after or may it also be before? The Justice Department, 10 more seconds, the Justice Department for 45 years has said it must be after.
And I guess you see what I'm getting at here, is that you've talked about this issue quite a bit. Even what Senator Whitehouse brought up when you were asked, people were asked to raise their hand, give a hand, how many people believe as a matter of law, that a sitting president cannot be indicted during the term of office. We saw the videotape. You raised your hand. You commented on it multiple times. I guess this is sort of what I'm saying. I'm going to get this.
It said law, right? In the Justice, it didn't say Constitution.
As a matter of law, yes.
Right.
Sir.
And
yes,
I do think it's important. Again, I don't want to take too much of your time, but it's important to know that the Justice Department since 1973 and to this day, through Republican and Democratic administrations, has had that position. So before it could come to a court, if I'm on the D.C. Circuit, before it could come to a court, that position presumably would have to change after 45 years. It would have to change. And then a prosecutor with a president would have to decide, I want to go forward as a matter of prudence. And then third would have to decide you have the evidence.
Okay.
And fourth, they would have to be challenged.
Sir,
After all that, it would get to court.
Sir, okay.
And then I would consider it
I want to move on, but you've made clear that you've never, spoken about these issues in a constitutional manner, and I just want to say that in a lot of your statements, it seems like that you're not just talking about this as a matter of policy. You're making some speculations about the constitutionality of it, which I think sends a clear signal about where you stand on those issues. But I really want to move on because
I promise you, I have an open mind.
Okay. You speak a lot in your speeches and articles about the matter of character, and just looking at what President Trump's comments, there's a number of sources that keep track of how many lies he tells. It's sort of stunning that according to one source, he's made 4,200 misleading claims during his presidency. That's an average of about 7.6 false or misleading statements per day. Now, I've listened to you speak a lot about character and the character of the presidency. At Duke University in 2000, for example, you said that character matters and that the president of the United States should be a role model for America. Do you still think character matters for the president of the United States?
Senator, given the lead into your question, you've heard me talk about I need to stay so far away from any political
3 zip codes away. I've heard you say that a number of times.
3 zip codes.
But that wasn't what you did when you were a Bush appointee. You talked a lot about Bush's character, even in your confirmation hearing. you said at your swearing-in ceremony, you were willing to comment about President Bush and his character. In fact, you said you had the greatest respect for President Bush. Now, we have a president now that has said a lot of comments, and this isn't in any way a partisan or a political issue, because people on both sides of the aisle have denounced the kind of statements that this president has made, matters of character. President Trump has, during the campaign, referred to immigrants as racist. He said a federal judge was unable to do his job because of his heritage. He bragged about sexually assaulting women. He has mocked disabled reporter. I could go on and on and on. The list they provided here is long, but my time is brief. Do you want to say right now, do you have the greatest respect? You said this about the last president. You thought it was okay. Do you have the greatest respect for Donald Trump?
Senator, to reiterate, you do not hear...
You can't even say if you have great respect for Donald Trump.
You don't hear sitting judges commenting on political...
I'm just asking you what you said about President Bush in the last time you were before the United States Senate. Do you have the greatest respect for Donald Trump?
I appreciate the question. And what I've said during this process is I need to stay away.
And you don't need to report it. 3 zip codes away. You don't need to repeat again. You're not answering my question. And I want to tell you why I'm building towards this. Because there's an issue of this president who is asking for loyalty tests from the people he's putting forward for offices. Now, you heard how he's continuing to bash the Attorney General of the United States of America and saying that if he knew he was going to recuse himself, that he wouldn't have put him forward. You've seen this president demanding loyalty, expecting loyalty. President Trump not only said that about Jeff Sessions, but you know he's said that about other folks. And so you're not willing to say about the comment on the character of this president. You're not willing to say if you have great respect for this president. Just last night, you wouldn't comment on the fact that the president, to one of my other colleagues, when he was talking about both sides being to blame, really excusing, it seems, the behavior of neo-Nazis. And I'm just wondering what kind of loyalty is being required of you for this job. That's what I'm building to by asking you and trying to keep apples to apples. What you said about President Bush, why aren't you saying it about President Trump? And so I want to just build to this in the remaining time I have left. In May of 2016, then candidate Trump put out his first list of potential Supreme Court nominees. You weren't on that list. In September 2016, he put out another longer list. You weren't on that one. Then in May 2017, something incredible happened. Robert Mueller was appointed by the special counsel to investigate any links in coordination between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. The president was now in jeopardy, or at least his campaign was jeopardy. He was a subject of a criminal investigation. And then President Trump puts out a third list of nominees, and your name is on that list. Now, you've heard so many of my colleagues asking about your views of the constitutionality of a president being investigated. You're failing to at least hold President Trump in your eyes to the same level of the presidential character, which you've talked about in speech after speech. You're going mum as to the character of this president, given all his lies, all his remarks that have been renounced, actually criticized on both sides of the aisle. And now there is a suspicion, and I don't think it's a big leap to think that the public has this suspicion that somehow you are in a position, and I wonder, do you credibly believe that if you agreed right now to recuse yourself, do you credibly believe that somehow, like he said with Jeff Sessions, that he would not hold your nomination up if you recuse yourself? Do you credibly believe that?
Senator, in this process, I need to uphold the independence of the judiciary, and one of those...
But that's what's at question.